If I wanted to, I could change everything in just 1 second. All he held was an old worn-out bag, but what was inside could destroy a life, or save one. The person who hid it, not just anyone, and the man who found it had no idea. His biggest test was just beginning. What would you do? Stay till the end to uncover the truth? The rain fell in torrents, a merciless shroud over Clay Walker, as he hunched beneath the hood of a black Range Rover parked outside his small-town garage. His hands, calloused and scarred from decades of wrestling steel, glistened with grease and rainwater, trembling slightly from the cold. The wind howled, clawing at his faded flannel shirt, but Clay's focus was unshakable. This was his domain: oil-stained floors, rusted tools, and the faint hum of a life held together by grit. It was all he had to keep the bank from swallowing. His world, to shield his 6-year-old daughter Lily from the hunger of overdue bills and a future teetering on collapse. Clay was a single dad, a mantle thrust upon him by tragedy. 3 years ago, cancer claimed his wife, Sarah, leaving him with a gaping wound in his chest, a pile of medical debts, and Lily's small voice asking, "Where's Mommy?" on nights when the silence grew too loud. Sarah's memory lingered, like a ghost. Her soft laugh, her steady hand on his shoulder, her whispered promise, "Keep going, Clay, for her." The garage, a weathered monument his father had built with bare hands, was their lifeline. It sat on a crumbling strip in a town time had forgotten, its walls holding 40 years of sweat, dreams, and quiet defiance. But the bank didn't care about history. The letters arrived like clockwork, each one sharper, the numbers bleeding red. Clay worked harder, his broad frame bending under the weight of it all. That afternoon, the Range Rover rolled in, its polished exterior a stark intruder in his gritty world. Its owner stepped out, a woman in stilettos and a tailored coat, her presence radiating wealth and disdain. "Fix it, and don't take all day," she snapped, tossing him the keys without meeting his eyes. Her voice sliced through the rain, cold and commanding, leaving no room for courtesy. Clay didn't flinch. He'd seen her kind, people who looked through him, not at him. He nodded, watched her stride to a waiting cab, and turned to the task. Hours slipped away, the rain unrelenting. The engine coughed, then purred, a small victory in a losing war. As Clay wiped his hands on a rag, his gaze snagged on something odd, a duffel bag wedged under the passenger seat. He tugged it free, unzipped it, and stopped breathing. Stacks of cash, crisp and tightly banded, spilled into view. His heart slammed against his ribs. This wasn't spare change. It was a lifeline, enough to bury the debts, patch the roof that dripped onto Lily's bed, maybe even take her to the ocean she traced in her coloring books, her voice a whisper of wonder. "Daddy, is it really that big?" The temptation clawed at him. He could keep it. No one would know. But Sarah's voice rose through the storm, firm and clear. "Do the right thing, Clay. Always." His conscience roared, drowning out the rain. He couldn't live with the stain. He zipped the bag shut and waited, expecting the woman to return, her sharp tongue ready to reclaim her prize. She didn't. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, her small frame nestled under a quilt Sarah had stitched, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, Clay strapped the bag to his motorcycle. The rain lashed at him as he rode through the dark to the address she'd scrawled on a crumpled note. A mansion on Maple Hill, all sharp glass and cold stone, looming like a predator against the stormy sky. He knocked and she answered, her eyes narrowing into slits. Panic flickered across her face as she snatched the bag. "Don't speak of this," she hissed, her voice low and venomous, a warning wrapped in silk. Clay stood tall, rain streaming from his jaw. "I can still sleep at night," he said, his words a quiet hammer. He turned, climbed onto his bike, and let the night swallow him. 3 days later, the earth cracked open beneath him. A silver BMW screeched to a halt outside the garage, its gleaming hood a taunt against the oil-stained gravel. A man in a suit stepped out, his polished shoes absurd in Clay's world, and thrust an eviction notice into his hands. Effective immediately. Clay's stomach plummeted as the woman from the Range Rover emerged, her heels clicking with purpose. "Alina Brooks," she said, her tone ice and steel. Senior partner at Stonecroft Holdings. We own this strip now. Clay's fists balled at his sides. You can't do this. This is my dad's place. I've paid every dime I owe. Her lips curled into a smirk, cruel and deliberate. The cash was a test, Mr. Walker. You passed. Proved you're honest. But honesty doesn't fit my portfolio. This land's worth more without your little shack. She turned to leave, dismissing his life's work with a flick of her wrist. Rage surged in Clay's chest, hot and wild, but he choked it down. Lily needed him whole. That night, after she drifted off, her tiny snores a fragile tether to hope, he sat at the kitchen table, the eviction notice glaring at him like a death sentence. He wasn't letting this go, not without a fight. He dialed Julia Reyes, a lawyer with a mind like a blade who'd helped him navigate Sarah's estate. She answered, voice sharp with concern. Clay, what's happened? Everything, he rasped. I need you. Julia dove into Stonecroft Holdings like a hunter tracking prey. What she unearthed was rot. Alina had forged a dead man's signature, Harold Grayson, a recluse who'd owned the strip decades ago, to claim the property. Fraud. Bold and brittle. We've got her, Julia said, her voice crackling with fire over the phone. But she's dangerous. She'll claw her way out. The next morning, a shadow stumbled into the garage. A boy, no older than 12, his face bruised, his clothes ragged. Please, he whispered, don't send me back. Clay's heart twisted. He saw Lily in the boy's trembling frame, her innocence mirrored in his fear. You're safe. Here, he said, wrapping him in a blanket and handing him a peanut butter sandwich from Lily's lunchbox. The boy's name was Micah, a runaway with no one left. Clay took him in, no questions asked. Sarah's compassion lived in him still. Alina didn't pause. Bulldozers rumbled up the road, their engines snarling like beasts. Clay and Julia raced to the courthouse, filing an injunction that halted the machines mid-strike, their blades inches from the garage's walls. The standoff drew a crowd, locals, reporters, a buzzing swarm. A town editor, digging through the story, recognized Harold Grayson's name, her dead uncle. She broke the scoop in the local paper, and it erupted online, hashtags lighting up. Screens gonna save Clay's garage. Clay's quiet battle became a roar. Then came the stranger. Dusk blared purple across the sky as a scarred man in a trench coat stepped into the garage, his presence heavy as smoke. His voice was gravel and secrets. That cash? Mine. Alina stole it from me in Chicago. She's a launderer, not just some suit. He pressed a burner phone into Clay's hand. Call this if she comes for you. Feds are closing in. Clay's mind reeled. Who was Alina really? The question sank into him, a shard he couldn't dislodge. She wasn't just a ruthless investor. She was a secret billionaire. Her fortune forged in shadows, her hands stained with more than ink. He'd walked into her trap, and now he was prey. The tension snapped days later. Alina stormed into the garage, her composure a shattered myth, and slapped Clay across the face. You should have kept your mouth shut, she snarled, her voice a jagged blade. A local kid, live streaming for his blog, caught it all. Clay's story had a legion. Now, the slap ricocheted online, her venom bared to millions. Hours later, federal agents swarmed in, cuffs gleaming, sirens piercing the dusk. The scarred man's warning had been true. Alina's empire, money laundering, fraud, a labyrinth of deceit, collapsed in real time. But the storm wasn't over. The next morning, a letter arrived from Stonecroft's real CEO, a quiet figure who'd watched from afar. Inside was a $2 million check and a note. Rebuild. Your honesty is worth more than her greed. Clay stared at it, then at Lily and Micah playing in the yard. Lily's laughter a melody, Micah chasing her with a stick, a grin breaking through his scars. He'd won, but the cost lingered in his bones. Spring swept in, soft and green, breathing life into the town. Clay poured the money into the garage, transforming it into a community hub. The bays hummed with new purpose. He hired single mums, vets, kids like Micah who'd been discarded by the world. A non-profit caught wind of his story and partnered with him, amplifying his fight into a movement. The garage became a lighthouse, its walls alive with second chances, its air thick with hope. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Micah, now a fixture in Clay's life, a brother to Lily, unveiled a plaque he'd carved from scrap wood. Honesty is the only tool that never breaks. Clay hung it above the bay, his throat tight with pride. Lily tugged his sleeve, her pigtails bouncing. "Daddy, is Mommy proud of us?" He knelt, pulling her close, Micah at his side. "Yeah, kiddo, she's proud. She'd love this place, love what we've made." He looked at the garage, its lights warm against the dusk. It wasn't just his anymore. It was theirs. A fortress of resilience. A proof that decency could rise from the ashes. The ending crystallized, sharp and final. Alina Brooks faced trial in a Chicago courtroom, her billions stripped away, her name a synonym for ruin. The scarred man vanished into the wind, his debt settled, his shadow fading. The feds uncovered her full web, millions laundered through, shell companies' properties seized, her mansion on Maple Hill boarded up and silent. Clay's garage stood unbowed, its foundation forged in truth. He'd returned the cash, faced the fire, and emerged whole. Lily grew up with a father who showed her integrity wasn't just a word, and Micah found a home, his bruises healing under Clay's care. The town rallied around them, their story a quiet legend in a world that often forgot such things. Clay stood in the garage one night, tools quiet, the plaque gleaming overhead. He'd lost Sarah, nearly lost everything, but he'd held fast. The cash had been a test, not just Alina's but his own. He'd chosen right, and that choice rebuilt his life brick by brick. The ending was clear. Honesty didn't just survive, it thrived. But the question remains, a whisper in the stillness. What would you do with a bag of cash that could rewrite your fate? Drop your thoughts below. And if Clay's fight gripped, you hit like and subscribe for more stories of real people defying the odds. This isn't just a tale, it's a challenge. Clay met it head on. How would you?